let's just jump into it then. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate you guys being part of our little podcast, and we hope to get some great insights on careers and market research. Might as well start with some introductions. Let's go from that end.
Great. I'm Nikki Greshner. I am from Saskatoon, right here in our hometown, I guess. And I guess that's about it.
How about you?
I'm Seth Owusu. I also live in Saskatoon, but originally I'm from Ghana.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Nathaniel Logan. I also live in Saskatoon and I'm originally from Jamaica.
And I'm Rim Hassan and I come from Egypt. I'm just newly joining Saskatoon now.
And I'm Brian and I've lived in Saskatoon my whole life.
Right on. So, Saskatoon, go. So, I want to get into you guys' backgrounds, how you guys ended up in market research, that kind of stuff. But let's just ease into it. Maybe we could start by looking at your educational backgrounds and how that relates to market research. Does anybody want to go first? Where'd you all go to school?
University of Saskatchewan.
Right on. What certifications did you get there?
So I started off with a BA in psychology,
Mhm.
and then I followed up with a master's in psychology, focusing on cognition and neuroscience.
Oh, wow. So I imagine that relates a little bit to market research.
More in my earlier kind of research, which was survey-based, looking at things like social anxiety and depression.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely fit a lot closer to what I'm doing now.
Did you find that psychology and a career in that, or your education in that, had prepared you for a market research career?
Yeah, I do think it did, although it certainly wasn't my intention at the time. I hadn't really considered market research as being, a possible avenue afterwards, but
Mhm.
certainly the skills that you gain there have a lot of overlap with what you do in market research.
How so?
Basically the whole kind of experience of research from design to execution and then analysis and reporting stuff is common between the two of them. It's just kind of the subject matter that changes, so you got a lot of experience there that's similar.
Cool. How about you, Reem? What school did you go to?
Well, I went to the German University in Cairo,
Cool.
and I studied, I have a bachelor degree with double majors in marketing and strategic management.
Mhm.
So it was basically very related to my field, which is market research.
Mhm.
I knew that I wanted to get into market research since I was at university. Since we started studying market research, I felt like that would be an interesting field to pursue.
What about it made you think it was interesting?
Well, I was the student that likes to do reports, basically.
Right
and
on. You better
just
like doing reports if you like market
that
research.
was my favorite. I didn't like studying so much. I liked the part where I got to write the thesis or just like writing reports and all that. So market research, you get to do a lot of these things. So that's
Mhm.
that was what attracted me to it, basically.
Right on. That must have been pretty good preparation then for your career in market research.
Yeah, I
And
guess
you
so, yeah.
Transferred pretty well.
Yeah, there's this transferability of, report writing kind of is a huge part of the market research field, basically.
Right on. How about you,
Yeah.
Logan?
Yeah, so I initially did a Bachelor of Science in Pharmacology in Jamaica. And then in 2011, I came to Canada. I did a postgraduate certificate or postgraduate diploma in
Mhm.
International Business Management. So then I got a little touch of market research there. I did a few things on market research or more like business research.
Yeah.
And then I did a master's in pharmaceutical science.
Oh,
So
wow.
a lot more research aspect there. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Did you find that related, like the research you were doing in university, related to market research in any way?
I wouldn't say necessarily related to market research, but I guess the design and how from design to analysis, a lot of that is kind of related, right?
Yeah.
'Cause,
Research
like-
design is research design is research
Exactly,
design, right?
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
beautiful. How about you, Seth? Where'd
I
you go to
start-
school? Sorry, I didn't interrupt you there.
I started with my bachelor's degree in Ghana
Mm-hmm.
in economics, and then in 2013 I moved here to pursue my master's in economics.
Wow.
So I majored in econometrics,
Mm-hmm.
basically statistics, quantitative analysis, and all of that. And I didn't really think at that time that I was going to end up in market research, because I was thinking about policy research, dealing with the economy, inflation, and all others.
Yeah.
But I found myself in this field, and I see that there was a lot of overlap because, you're dealing with statistics analysis. The only thing is that in the economics, you're dealing a lot with secondary data, but in market research, because of the surveys and all of that, so we deal a lot with primary data, but the analysis and everything, it's pretty much the same.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. How about you, Nikki?
So I started out at the University of Saskatchewan in kinesiology, actually.
Oh, right on.
And then I ended up taking entrepreneurship elective and decided I really liked business courses, so I made the switch into commerce and graduated with my BCom in marketing. So obviously there's a few crossovers between marketing and market research, so you take your market research classes, and I was really interested in consumer behavior, so I did the honors program in my last year, and so it's a full year research-based project working with a professor kind of thing, and then you can go on to do things like Brian, do your master's and that kind of good stuff. But yeah, I looked at consumer food purchasing behavior, and a lot of it's just to do with psyche and what things consumers and shoppers look at when making purchase decisions and things like that. So a lot of it's quite related to what we do
absolutely
now,
transferable
but
for sure.
Yeah,
for
so,
sure.
And I mean, even in marketing, they kind of outlined market research as a potential career path. I didn't know necessarily that's what I wanted to do, but it was something that I was definitely open to and interested in, I guess, from my education. So
Really diverse backgrounds, very diverse educational backgrounds, everything, right? It seems the one thing that we have in common is a love of research, though, right? That's it, because frankly, it's transferable all the way across. As long as you're doing good research in any field, you're doing good research, right? So, let's talk about your professional backgrounds a lot, because this is going to have to do a lot with a lot of the folks who are looking to get into market research themselves or are kind of interested in the career. We all know that education's great, but experience is really what gets you in the door most of the time, right? Do anybody want to share some of their previous experience? Reem, you go first.
Well, I actually got graduated quite a while back, so I've been kind of jumping around from different careers until I finally got into the market research career. I started out in an in-house department for research, which is basically you have a company and they have their own research department nestled within the company itself. This differs a bit from the agency experience in the sense that you don't have different clients, you have just the same clients that you're kind of working for. And there's also a lot more room for you you're expected to do pretty much everything, and instead of in the agency side, you kind of have people who write proposals and people who are specialized in qualitative, people specialized in quant and so on. On the other side, when it's in-house, you kind of have to do everything. So it was good because it gives you a lot of experience and it teaches you all the different aspects of the process itself. So that was kind of my background.
Did you acquire any special skills or abilities while you were doing that help you doing market research, like reporting, data analysis, collection, something like that? Yeah,
I mean, you get exposed, once you start working, there's a lot of things that you kind of learn that you don't learn at school. So a lot of the skills are things that you kind of learn on the job, for example, moderating or things even report writing. There's just the business aspect of it is something that you have to acquire through your job.
It's a big difference between business writing and essay writing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, there's just a little bit of technical knowledge that you kind of acquire as you go on the job as well, besides the theoretical stuff that you get at school.
Cool. How about you, Nikki?
What's the question?
Your professional background, can you describe it a little bit?
Mine varies from Reem's a little bit. I'm pretty fresh into the workforce,
That's
so
excellent.
Before taking this position, I actually had one other kind of contracted term position with two financial planners. They were kind of merging their businesses together, and I actually did a bit of branding work for them after graduating. So that's kind of my first big girl job in the real world, I guess you could say. In my undergraduate degree, I was a volunteer board member, so I actually got quite a bit of transferable business skills and knowledge of, business operations and the way organizations are run and things like that.
Right on.
It was with a student-run health clinic in Saskatoon, so I thought that was quite a valuable experience, and got to do a lot of marketing and kind of HR, and wore a couple different hats in my time with them. So
Cool.
yeah, really enjoyed that, and it seemed to be a helpful, I guess, experience when looking for work and kind of first entering into the job force. So
Yeah. Were you actually looking to obtain specific skills while you're doing that kind of thing, or was it just sort of madly rushing to what am I trying to say? Madly trying to get the skills that you needed to do your gig at the time?
it's a good question.
Yeah, I guess really the best way to say that is, were you involved in any skills development specific to market research? That's the best way to say that.
We had kind of like a research committee that we'd send projects through, so I was exposed to a little bit of that in just our general like board discussions and things like that. And I guess it wasn't so much research as more just general business and office related practices and things like that.
Gotcha.
And like grant writing, those kinds of things. But yeah, as far as the research goes, it's maybe a little bit more disconnected from that as it was to maybe a more general marketing profession. But
yeah, right on.
yeah.
How about you, Logan? What was your professional background look like before you started as a research associate?
Well, I've done a lot of schooling, so as you heard, I've been in school for so long. So then, as a grad student, I was like a research associate, so a research assistant. You know, you're working with your supervisor, also working on your project, so you got a lot of exposure there. You know, to a lot of analysis and kind of building your. It's also report writing skills as well. Yeah. And then after finishing, I started working here in Insightrix Research first, and as an interviewer, and then supervisor, and then research associate. So kind of got a feel of from the basics, getting the data collection skills and managing skills after there, managing people's skills after that, and kind of getting an idea of what kind of questions are would entail in different types of research. So kind of getting a different look on the field from there.
Yeah, I imagine it must be a little bit different than pharmacological research, right? In that.
Yeah, but as Brian mentioned, a lot of it, the subjects might just change, but I mean, research is research, right? Yeah. So, I think that's the general part, because once you have a general understanding of research, right, I think it's so flexible. It can be used anywhere, right? So
that's a good takeaway. Just get a really good understanding of research, and it's very transferable to pretty much anywhere, right? Yeah, that's awesome. Brian.
Yeah, so my only other kind of relevant work experience would be as a summer research assistant in a neuroscience lab, which ended up leading into my master's program. So a lot of that was very kind of technical skills, working in the lab and lots of time on a microscope. So probably less of the actual kind of research methodology and reporting and such that I later got experience in, but it's what kind of set me down that path more.
Right on. So how did you end up in market research?
Well, I was kind of looking for any kind of opportunity that would allow me to still continue doing research, but outside of the academic world. And so market research hadn't even really been on my radar as something to look for. It wasn't something I was thinking of at all, but when I saw a job posting for it, and I was looking through the requirements and mentioning experience in social research, and that kind of made me realize that this was something that really fit me quite well, and it was kind of like, well, this is for me then. So yeah.
Cool. And Seth, what was your professional background like?
Well, a lot of my professional background was in the academic world. After my undergraduate degree, I worked as a teaching assistant at the university, so helping students clean their data, analyze, and do everything with statistical packages and statistical software.
Oh, right on.
So that's what I did, and when I came to Canada here, did my master's degree, it was the same thing I was doing, just helping them analyze data, clean and everything. So that gave me some kind of exposure to a lot of statistical packages and software And my curiosity also led me to explore a lot of other software. So it took me to programming and just dealt with so much software, just a lot of them. And I saw this job posting, and I loved research actually. So I looked at it and I was like, oh well, let me just give it a try, and I put it in, and I ended up in market research. So.
Any chance to get paid for research? It's awesome.
Yeah.
So you sound like you have a pretty good interest in reporting and automation, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you find you use that a lot here at Insightrix?
Yeah, I do that a lot. Just any opportunity to just automate processes and gain some efficiencies in there. It's something that I just look for. So I do, and I look for those opportunities to just gain those efficiencies. Yeah.
So programming is definitely a skill that you'd be saying is something
sure.
that people should be picking up.
For sure, it's a good thing. Those languages help because I did R, and the knowledge of R helped me in JavaScript. It helped me in Visual Basic and any other program that I pick up. The basics that I have in R actually helps me to understand and then just pick up on that language. So it's a good skill to have in market research.
So why don't we talk about some of the challenges and obstacles that people have had in their early career in market research? Does anybody have a moment that they'd like or feel comfortable sharing where they can talk about, like, wow, maybe I am on the right track here? Anybody? Anecdote?
I don't know, I guess just like when you find that you're really interested in a project or something like that, and you know that your interests are aligning with the type of work that you're doing, I think that's kind of like a nice aha moment to have, especially when you're first starting out, to say like, hey, I'm actually really enjoying the work that I'm doing, kind of thing, or this project is really interesting. I think that's a pretty good indicator that you've, I guess, selected something that is maybe the right path for you. But
yeah, I know whenever you start a new gig and it's a new field and you get into it and you find out that your skills are transferable and you're actually, sort of sliding into the groove a little bit, it sure does feel good, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does.
Any hard times overcome by anybody? Were there any challenges that anybody would like to share about their early moments in market research that might actually get somebody over the hump who's feeling the same way themselves?
I think for me, it's mostly because it's a project-based kind of field, sometimes you find that there's a lot of workload. So the projects kind of end up all happening at the same time. Sometimes you'll have months where you don't have any projects, and then there's this 1 month that you have 5 or 6 projects that are due at the same time, and I don't know why this always seems to happen.
Yeah.
So if you're still starting out, sometimes you can be overwhelmed and you feel like it's the end of the world and it's like your life is over because you just have so many deadlines and you just get too worried about it. But the thing is, it's like everything will pass. Eventually these reports are going to come out, everything's going to be done, and everything will be over. And just don't sweat it too much, don't worry too much about it. It's even the people you work with or managers, they're always going to be aware that, okay, if there's too many things on your plate, they will understand that there will be some things that might be a little bit delayed, or they will try to support you and all that, and just try to reach out and speak up if you feel like you're too overwhelmed.
That's awesome. That's good advice. I saw you nodding your head a lot there, Steph, too. Do you agree?
It's the same thing. I also go through the same things. Sometimes when I have a lot of things to do and I have these deadlines to meet, I feel like there is this weight on my shoulders, and when the report goes out, I feel so relieved, and it's like a huge burden being lifted off my shoulders. So it's just attesting to what Reem was saying.
It's awesome. It's kind of like finishing the test kind of thing.
Yeah.
Nothing better than that weight off the shoulders. Running a race is a good analogy, right? Because honestly, the exhaustion's in there too, right? Well, that's the beautiful thing about research, is that when you like it, that's one of those things that you grow to accept, though, right? It's just part of the research game, is that there are going to be long nights sometimes, but at the same time, it pays off. So, does anybody want to tell me what a day in the life of a market research professional looks like? Because that's another thing that a lot of people looking at the career might be a little curious about, because what does a market researcher do? Maybe you could share, Brian.
Yeah, it kind of depends on the day and what's on on the docket for.
Is it true that every day
projects.
brings something different kind of thing?
It does, yeah, in the order of it certainly. But I think most days will probably include a fair bit of analyzing data with programs like Q or SPSS, and working with it in Excel as well as PowerPoint to kind of graph them and visually represent it. So I'd say most of my time's probably spent
Analysis.
analysis, and then transferring that right kind of into reporting, kind of doing both at the same time generally.
Cool.
But then, yeah, when there's times for kind of new projects coming up, then you know, some questionnaire design and such. But yeah, the bulk majority of the time would be reporting and analysis.
How about you, Reed? What's an average day look like for you? Because I know you do some reporting as well.
I think, of course, the reporting is like, it's taking a lot of our time basically, because it's like the end product of the whole process.
Yeah.
There's also project management, where you kind of have to keep track of which stage each project is in. Is it in the fieldwork yet, or are there any fieldwork problems, and just make sure that everything's going smoothly. And also just dealing with clients if they have questions, or if there are certain things that you need to share with them or they need to share with you, things like that. Attending kickoff meetings to understand just how the projects are going to go or what the client needs. There's also like on the other side of the spectrum, the qualitative research, where you're doing more of interviewing or focus groups just to understand people and like answer questions, but using a different methodology from like gathering data or surveys. So that's pretty much the cycle, I guess, for every project. Yeah.
You look like you had some interest in qual research yourself there. I imagine you're doing a lot of it, Logan?
Yeah, because if you're not reporting, because a lot of stuff I've done on quite a bit is like, part of a lot of IDIs, so interviews. So like
in-depth interviews, for those who don't know?
In-depth interviews, and like taking notes or even conducting the interviews. So that depends on the project you're on. A lot of your days could involve with a lot of those as well.
Right on.
And along with a lot of reporting, and could be a lot of analysis as well, or just trying to find similar themes within those in-depth interviews. So a lot of those things as well.
Cool. How about you, Seth? What do you get up to?
In addition to the reporting and project management that Reem and Brian already mentioned, you sometimes also get these requests from clients that you didn't even plan for, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you send out a report and they come back and they have, can you do this? Can you just run these numbers? Can you find out what's in here? And these things come, they're unexpected. You don't expect them. You come in the morning, you have a plan, and these things sometimes come and they end up taking your whole day sometimes. So, those are things to that.
I mean, what they say, research begets research.
Yeah.
All that research usually does is provide answers that call to mind new questions. So that makes sense, right? Yeah. How about you, Nicole? How's the average day look like for you?
Yeah, they've pretty much covered it off between everything, but I'd say a lot of project and client management just on a day-to-day basis. So managing expectations, and when things shift, making sure you're keeping people notified and not just letting the kind of projects run on their own, is a big component of it too. Coordinating with the other departments in our office too. We have a pretty collaborative workplace, so that's always nice. You can turn your chair around when I don't know how to do something with Q, or if I need an R script written for something, then I can always tap on Seth's shoulder, or ask people to review your work. It's kind of nice to have that resources available to you when you're writing reports and things like that. So that's another big part of our day, I guess, is just kind of taking away those little learnings, or at least for me, being kind of new to the workforce and the market research industry. I think that's really valuable to have, and I find that I do that quite often on a day-to-day basis. So
right on. Yeah. So keeping those plates spinning is a real good part of it, hey?
Yeah.
Just because you're working on multiple projects all at once, and client management is a big part. I don't like saying client management. Let's just say client relations.
Client servicing.
Good. I like that. Finally, I had one question, because I think it's something that could be pretty useful to folks looking to get into market research themselves. You guys have any advice for anybody looking to get into market research as a career? Like what kind of education or professional background do you think would be most beneficial? Stuff like that kind of thing? Logan, you start.
Yeah, sure. I think the number one thing is, which I think most of us touched on, is just have a love for research, right? Because if you have that love for research, you'll be able to eventually love what you do and be interested. So the more interest you have, the more you get to know the field and understand the different technical parts of the career as well, right? So and also just be open, because market research has a lot of different parts. It could be qualitative, you're just doing, conducting interviews, or quantitative, you're dealing with numbers. So, just got to be open to different aspects of market research. So just have an open mind.
So developing skills is a really good idea, but don't over-specialize or think that over-specialization is going to carry you through. Sort of be
Kind of
able to
yeah.
jump from one shoe to the next from
Yeah.
day to day.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How about you, Brian?
This is a very specific technical one, but
Beautiful.
learn Excel formulas.
Oh, God. Yeah, day one, right?
Yeah, things like if, and, or, index, HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP. Those will solve 99% of the problems you encounter. And they're not that hard to learn, so
Right on.
learn them early. And save you
Master
a lot of
Excel.
time.
Master Excel. Right on. And is there anybody want to share anything that people should know before you start a career in market research? You were touching on late hours as being one of the things that people are going to have to be able to deal with, and we've been mentioning multitasking as another big thing. Is there anything else that people should know that they should look for before they start getting into the career?
I guess maybe too, just kind of what Reem was touching on, how initially she started in-house versus at an agency or doing work for many different organizations. I think that's maybe one thing that you could maybe dial down your interest and say, do I want to work for just one company and really focus on what they're doing, or are you more interested in switching it up on a day-to-day basis? Because maybe that'd be more crucial to the decision in which company you decide to work for if you're only working for that one versus many of them, I guess, would be another thing to consider. But
Okay.
And also just have a clear idea, like if you want to go into more quantitative roles versus qualitative roles, because I think usually when you first start out, the first thing they ask you in an interview for any job like this, are you more into numbers or do you like talking more to people? So sometimes you wouldn't know, like for me, I had no idea like which side I would prefer more, and sometimes you might find that you find both interesting, but it's good to explore, like kind of have an idea and think about which, pathway you want to take.
That's good advice. Anybody else have anything they want to share? Beautiful. I want to thank you guys all for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been really informative having you guys here, and really thank you for sharing your experiences and your backgrounds, and look forward to seeing you all around the office some more.
Okay.
All right, you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.